Today we're diving into one of the most heated topics in history. How did Christianity and Islam truly begin? Not theology, but raw historical evidence. We have Dr. Mostafavi and Pastor David. And trust me, this debate gets intense. Gentlemen, let's begin. One rule, attack ideas, not persons.
Thank you. My position is simple. Christianity has earlier and stronger historical documentation than Islam. We have Paul's letters, 50-60 AD, earliest Christian writings. Josephus, Jewish historian, 93 AD, mentions Jesus being executed. Tacitus, Roman historian, 116 AD, confirms Jesus' crucifixion. Ignatius, 110 AD, disciple of John, affirms Jesus' divinity. But Islam's earliest biography of Muhammad, Ibn Ishaq, appears around 120 years after Muhammad's death. This gap raises serious historical questions. So, Haider, how can Islam claim historical clarity when the earliest full biography comes a century later?
Matthew, that's a classic but outdated argument. Modern scholarship says something different. Historians like Harald Motzki says several hadiths trace back to the first generation. Fred Donner argues a unified early Muslim movement existed from the start. Gregor Scheuler shows written materials existed during Muhammad's life. Motzki, Hadith, Origins and Development. Piers 55. The early transmission of Hadith began far earlier than Western critics assumed. And unlike Christianity, Islam had a formal chain of transmission system, isnad, something Christianity never developed. May I ask you, if Paul's letters are so early, why does Paul barely quote Jesus' teachings?
Because Paul wasn't writing biographies, he wrote pastoral letters, but we still have the Gospels from 70 to 95 AD, very close to Jesus.
Close? A 40-year gap is close?
If Islam had a 40-year gap, you would attack it all day.
Bart Ehrman, leading New Testament scholar, says plainly, we don't know who wrote the Gospels. Ehrman misquoting Jesus, Pierre Honda said.
Well, Ehrman also says Jesus definitely existed. Don't cherry pick. Mostafavi, can you name one non-Muslim historian contemporary to Muhammad who mentions him?
Yes, Ceballos, Armenian bishop, writing around 660 AD within 30 years of Muhammad. He describes Arabs following a leader who teaches about Abraham. That's pretty close.
But Islam's first full biography, Ibn Ishaq, appears over 100 years after Muhammad. And yes, Muslims cite the Armenian bishop Ceballos. But let me make this very clear. Ceballos did not describe a new religion in detail. He simply wrote, Chronicle, page 106. The people of Ishmael are led by a man called Muhammad. This indicates a political leader, not a religious founder with a full scripture. So Ceballos does not confirm the Islamic narrative.
Next question. Did political power shape each religion?
Absolutely in Islam. The Umayyads and Abbasids had the power to shape narratives. Christianity, meanwhile, was persecuted for 300 years. It had no political power to control history. If Islam's beginnings were purely spiritual, why did expansion happen through empires so quickly?
Incorrect comparison. Christianity's doctrine was shaped by empire, specifically Emperor Constantine. Edward Gibbon, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, volume Unpart 250. The church was shaped more by the emperor's influence than by apostolic tradition. Islam's doctrines, however, are pre-imperial. The Qur'an existed before empires. If Christianity was so pure before Constantine, why did the Council of Nicaea fight over whether Jesus was God or created?
Before we continue, pause for a second. If you're enjoying this intense historical breakdown, smash that like button right now. This video took a huge amount of research, and your support helps us bring more debates like this. Now, back to the fire.
Let's talk texts. The New Testament manuscripts? Over 5,800 Greek manuscripts, some from the 2nd century. Islam's earliest complete Qur'an manuscripts? Mostly from the 8th century. If your text is perfectly preserved, where are the 7 original Quranic codices?
This argument is outdated. We have early Qur'an fragments like Birmingham manuscript, c. 568-645 AD, possibly from Muhammad's lifetime. And regarding variants, Christianity has 400,000 manuscript variants. Ehrman points to 90. There are more variants than words in the New Testament. If your scripture is preserved, why so many contradictions between manuscripts?
Christianity's core message never changed. Jesus lived, died, and rose again.
That is exactly what historians question. Paula Fredriksen, Harvard scholar, says, the earliest followers did not preach a divine Jesus. Fredriksen, From Jesus to Christ, Pies of 55. Meanwhile, Islam's message is uniform from the start. One God, one prophet, one scripture. Matthew, if the message was stable, why did early Christians disagree on who Jesus even was?
Why does Ibn Ishaq appear so late?
Because the Umayyads weren't preserving literature, but the oral tradition predates him.
Why no eyewitness biography of Muhammad?
Same reason we have no eyewitness biography of Jesus. Ancient world didn't produce modern biographies.
Why do hadith scholars reject thousands of narrations as weak?
That proves the system works. Bad data removed.
You say Muslims filtered weak hadiths using science, but many historians argue something else. You removed weak hadiths because they didn't fit the later Islamic self-image. In other words, you reshaped the religion as Muslim society intellectually evolved. This isn't divine preservation, this is human editing. Christians didn't delete the embarrassing parts of the Gospels, but Muslims did delete narrations that made Islam look less divine.
That accusation is simply wrong. The Qur'an was complete and written during Muhammad's lifetime. Even Western scholars like Donner acknowledge this. Weak hadiths were filtered because they came from unreliable transmitters, not because Muslims wanted to reshape the religion. And regarding Christianity, even Christian historian Eusebius admitted, Church History Book 1, that early Christian documents were heavily debated and edited. So if you say Islam evolved, then Christianity evolved far more, from a Jewish preacher to a divine God-man. Why do the Gospels contradict on the resurrection details?
They're eyewitness perspectives, not carbon copies.
Why doesn't Paul mention Jesus' miracles?
Different purpose, not writing biography.
Why did Christians debate Jesus' divinity for 300 years?
Because philosophical language evolved, not the belief. Christianity has independent sources, Jewish, Roman, and Christian. Islam mainly cites Muslim sources.
Not true. We have Ceballos, 660 AD, Doctrina Jacobi, 7th century, both referencing early Islam from an outsider perspective. Meanwhile, Christianity relies heavily on later church fathers. Matthew, how many ancient Roman sources mention Christianity in the first 50 years? 0.
Christianity rests on early diverse sources that confirm Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. Islam's early sources appear later and depend largely on internal tradition.
Christianity's early sources are religious, not neutral. Islam's historical footprint appears quickly across empires, and the Qur'an's consistency is unparalleled.
This debate isn't about who won. It's about challenging assumptions with real historical data. If you've watched the video so far, it means it was valuable to you. So like this video so that we, the creators of the video, can be happy with our efforts, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next debates. And comment below which argument was stronger, Christian or Muslim. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next debate.